Let this be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself, something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in our opening hymn, 323, Break Not the Circle. Standing as Chris Tasowski lights our chalice with these words by Reverend Scott Taylor. May this flame spark a vision of what might be. May the supposedly real seem less solid. May the inevitable reveal its carefully concealed cracks. It's all made of pieces and parts, friends. Each of them longing to be rearranged. Or maybe it's a story, and the pen is in our hand. It's now time for our story for all pages, entitled Perfectly Normal. Norman had always been normal, perfectly normal, until one day he grew a pair of wings. Norman had imagined growing taller or growing a beard like his dad, but he had never imagined growing a pair of wings. Still, they were here now, so he decided to test them out right away. Soon, Norman was swooping around and generally having the most fun. to the park, but he was far too... His parents didn't notice the wings, but they did think he had to go in for dinner. You see, Norman had always been so normal. He didn't know how his parents would feel about his extraordinary wings. As he went in, Norman covered himself in a great big coat. His parents didn't notice the wings, but they did think it was odd to be wearing a coat indoors. Bath time was problematic. So was bedtime. The coat was hot and uncomfortable, but Norman had decided that no one should see his wings, ever. The next day, Norman went to the park, but he was far too hot to play any of his favorite games. And so it went on. Long car journeys were unbearable. The swimming pool was dreadful. And that was nothing compared to his friend's birthday party. The only time that Norman could feel normal now was when it rained. One day, a boy tried to pull off his coat, and Norman had to run away, hot-faced, angry, and sad. He wished he'd never grown those stupid wings. Then he saw some birds high up in the sky and remembered the joy of his first flight. It occurred to Norman that it was the coat that was making him miserable, not the wings. Why don't you take off that scruffy old thing, suggested his mom and dad. Norman looked up at them hesitantly. His parents smiled and nodded. Norman smiled back. Then he threw off the coat and let his wonderful wings fan out. Norman leapt into the air. Finally, he was free of that coat. He noticed a few other children wearing thick, heavy coats of their own. They looked up at Norman and around at one another nervously. There was a moment's pause, and then, whoosh! The sky was filled with flying people. Norman had never felt so happy. He realized that there was no such thing as perfectly normal. But he was perfectly Norman, which was just as it should be. Please remain seated for our prayer hymn, 352, Find a Stillness. silence that follows the prayer, you are invited to come forward and light a candle for any joys or concerns you hold in your heart this morning. Let go of the idea that you know what breathing should feel like. Just notice the breath as it moves in and out of the body. Let go of certainty. Be with the breath as it is. Allow openness. Allow curiosity. Notice the mind. Each thought that arises, allow openness. Don't judge your mind or your experience. Be loving in your curiosity about each thought. Let go of certainty. Let go of any idea about what you should be thinking, accepting your thoughts exactly as they are. Be with yourself as you are. Be curious about who you are. Love how you are in the world. Gently take a deep breath, maybe even a big sigh. Re-enter the present moment and the stream of your life. I light a candle for the joys and concerns of the beloveds joining us virtually, and I light a candle for all else that we hold in our hearts and our minds this morning. If your heart is hurting, know that your community is here to help, as is Reverend Jane. Please reach out with any needs. Our offering words are from Paul Dalzell. The offering we take each Sunday is an opportunity to recommit to this place and to these people. It is as much a ritual as singing together, lighting our chalice, or reciting our unison affirmation. It is a reminder of that form of love we call generosity. It is how we show that we believe it is important to worship together, to help our community, and to say yes to the values of our faith. For all that you give and all that you do, for our church and its wider concerns, we give thanks. The imagination retains a passion for freedom. There are no rules for the imagination. It never wants to stay trapped in the expected territories. The old maps never satisfy it. It wants to press ahead beyond the accepted frontiers and bring back reports of regions no mapmaker has yet visited. The artist is a prophet, someone who helps us be self-critical and creative, so we don't stay stuck in the status quo. The prophet models and embodies a new way of thinking and being that allows us to imagine a larger, more inclusive way to live. Perhaps, like the prophetic mystics of all traditions, the artists of each generation can help us transcend our dualisms and move us beyond the exclusionary frameworks that are comfortable for us. I invite you to rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn 121, We'll Build a Land. Inspired to write this sermon by Reverend Dana Warsnop's sermon entitled, Way Beyond Normal. While reading her sermon, I had a recollection of being with family and having some of my friends to come over to visit. After they left, a family member made the comment, "They are not normal." I didn't say it at the time, but I thought afterwards that if my friends fit this characterization, it would be good to be not normal. I think the family member was referring to my friends behaving in a rather chaotic and dramatic way. The family member didn't know them very well and discounted the fact that they, along with another couple, were responsible for introducing me and my husband. They had been particularly supportive to him before and during our early relationship. They became dear friends to both of us, always being there for us, especially during crises. I thought to myself, if people who have hearts of gold are not normal, I'm a fan of people who are not normal. Of course, people's behavior can go too far afield and become abnormally heartless and destructive, which I do not approve of. In fact, there was a stand-up comedy special on Netflix by Wanda Sykes after the 2016 election called Not Normal, which made fun of the myriad of ways that the behavior of the president was not normal, meaning that his behavior was so outrageous, surprising, and unexpected. It was good to laugh to relieve the ominous feeling that the times would be changing in a negative direction. In Way Beyond Normal, Reverend Warsnaw tells the story of a statistician named Adolf Quitlet, who invented the idea of the average man, which he interpreted to be the perfect man. He considered deviations in behavior from the average man errors. The way he came up with the average man was by measuring and averaging all sorts of parts of the human body. Average was seen as normal and became a template. Since he was measuring Western European men, which obviously does not apply to many other people, including women and those from outside Western Europe, his faulty concept of average became the basis for the template for what was normal. Not only is the basis for the concept of normal flawed, but it sets up an expectation that people should aspire to be normal. Since normal is a social construct, and the range and scope vary greatly, its definition becomes arbitrary and can be used to deem behavior out of range as abnormal, with all of the judgment and social disapproval that comes with it. It sets up people to be anxious if they think they are too far off what is defined as normal. Take the example of normal development in children. How many parents have worried unnecessarily about their children not meeting developmental milestones on time and thinking there was something wrong with their child? It turns out that neurodiversity can engender imagination and genius in a child. Think about Albert Einstein, speculated to have been on the autism spectrum, who did not do well in school, but invented the theory of relativity as an adult. Reverend Warsnaw points out that although transgender individuals are a small percentage of the population, they still represent millions of people. They've been vilified as abnormal in some circles, but some indigenous cultures refer to the transgender people as people of two spirits who have their own beauty and wisdom. Reverend Warsnaw says, "Let's all give it up and be free. Let's live way beyond normal. Let's live into a wider scope of human expression for all." May it be so, and amen. Please rise in body or spirit to join our voices in hymn 170, "We Are a Gentle, Angry People." May your imagining know the grace of perfect danger, to reach beyond imitation and the wheel of repetition, deep into the call of all the unfinished and unsolved, until the veil of the unknown yields and something original begins to stir towards your senses and grow in your heart.